Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. Who asked this question?
That was me. Yeah, I'm just wondering like what his background is and stuff like that.
Okay, so basics. I'm going back. I will talk about the author in the 2 minutes. So anybody have any other question want to cover? If you think that's a very fundamental question, and I think I will cover in the first 5-10 minutes. Okay. Any question like who is the author? When is the book written? Okay. So I will cover it in a few minutes. So today we talk about the subject that we talk about is true man. Okay. And that's from the book Zhuangzi. And the next week, Sashi is talking about Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8. And 2 weeks from now, August 5th, which is Huang is going to talk about Wu Zetian, who is the female emperor in China during the Tang Dynasty, which is the 6th and the 7th century. And August 12th, I will continue to finish on chapter 6, okay, the great part 2, which the subject is death. And you will see these two even in the same chapter, but the two writing style and everything are very different. Okay, so back to the answer. The book we follow is so-called Zhuang Zi. Okay, and the author is Zhuang Zi in Chinese, ancient Chinese tradition. The author, something called Zi. Okay, sometimes you spell as T-Z-U or sometimes spell as Z-I. Zi usually means Mr. or Master. So Zhuang is the last name. So Zhuangzi is Mr. Zhuang. That's the author. But usually the book also called Zhuangzi. Okay, and the person's philosophy also called Zhuangzi. So when I say Zhuangzi in this section, it could means the person, the book, the philosophy. They're all in the same. But I think it's probably not that important to separate them. So in the chapter, okay, Zhuangzi has total have 33 chapters. And usually we consider the first 7 chapters, we call it the inner chapters, and which believe is written by Zhuangzi himself. And it's written in 369 to 286 BCE, roughly same as in Greek, the Aristotle's time. No, probably Socrates' time, okay, during that time. So during that period of time. And so we are going from the first chapter to the 7th chapter. According to our schedule, we will finish on the August 19th. We will do the last chapter. I believe this chapter only needs 1 section. And then I will run another review because the author, the translator, Fung You Lan, okay, is the translator, is look at here. Fung You Lan is the translator, and then he summarized 10 points about Zhuangzi's philosophy. So I would like to cover on the end of August. So we will complete these 7 chapters in August. So that's the plan. Okay, so today's subject, we are going to talk about the first part of chapter 6. And this chapter is very different. And I have to admit, I read Zhuangzi since I was young, and I kind of not interested on this part because it's strange, okay, different. I have to admit, it's a little bit strange. But since I got more mature, I understand different religion, and then I realized this part, basics, is the foundation of today's religious Taoism, which is popular in Asia. So I will spend some time to talk about this today. And then we have, it's my honor and a great person can give us some word. Amang, are you able to say something about the true man before I start?
I'm going to listen in mostly. I might put up my hand if I have something to add. May have to duck out for a phone call, but I'm very grateful that I was able to make it here, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, and then I would really appreciate if Amang, or it's my honor to have Amang here. He's busy and he's a real Taoist, okay, ordained Taoist priest. Okay. So of course we probably have a different view on this because I probably interpret more on the philosophical point of view. And Amang, if you can, please provide your own view, especially on this this part of text, because this one is, at least my understanding, is the foundation of the today's Taoist religion. Okay. So I'm not going to cover the previous 5 chapters. Okay, I provide the outlines in the slide. So when you have time, if you are interested, you can go ahead to look at some outline for the previous chapter. And I don't think I have to review every chapter for today's section because today's section is totally independent from other texts. So we can read as a fresh text. So I don't think they have any problem to understand. And if you feel you don't understand or you have a question, just raise your hand. I don't think it's related to previous section. So today I'm going to cover, so this chapter 6, basics, I can see they have the 3 parts. The first part talk about the true man. Okay, we will understand what's the meaning of true man. And the second part I call B, which is talking about Tao. And a lot of people heard about Tao, like Tao Te Ching, okay, Lao Tzu, who is, I think, 300 years before Zhuang Zi. It doesn't talk, it's not very clear what is Tao. And here, I'm not saying this text is clear, but at least Zhuang Zi tried to put a lot of text to explain what is Tao. Okay, so that's the 2 parts that become the important of today's religious Taoism, right? The true man and the true man and the Tao. And then I'm going to add one more section. If we have time, I will put today's religious Taoism, okay, today's situation, just some brief introduction, which is we can arguably one of the most popular religions in Asia. Okay, so put this way. Okay, so before I jump to the text, okay, any question or any comment or any suggestion you want or any specific subject that you want to me to spend time on that, please let me know.
Yes, I would like to know if you're going to cover what will give birth to the true man.
What's the, excuse me, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to cover what will give birth to the true man. Okay,
how does the true man create it? I'm not sure I can give you answer. Okay, let's figure out from the text. I think I'm not practice Taoism, so I'm not sure, okay, how to do it, and I'm not sure, who can answer this question. Okay, so let's go through this text, and then we will see what's how to, let's put it this way, how to become a true man. Let's put it this way. Okay. Susan, please. Susan, you are muted. So before you, let me let Amang say something. Okay, Amang, you want to say something, please?
I want to hear what Susan has to say first, and then I'll chime in a little.
Okay, please, Susan, please.
I'm new to the group. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
In my familiarity with Taoism, I think that wouldn't in a Taoist view, wouldn't it be beyond some kind of conventional human view of birth and death, of right and wrong? It's a non-dualistic philosophy. So sometimes when I hear these questions, I think that maybe I don't know the specifics of Taoism, but wouldn't there would be an understanding, would there not, that there was maybe a conventional view of things, and then a Taoist view would not be a dualistic and conventional view of life?
I think you are correct. You already see me knock my head all the time. So everything you said is correct. Okay, based my understanding. Yeah. Thank you. Aman, please.
Sorry, I wanted to get on camera. Hello, everyone. I think Susan actually nailed it pretty well. The idea of the Zhenren, or true man, is kind of the person who embodies Taoist philosophy. And the question I think that was asked earlier, what would give birth to the true man, is almost, how do I say this right? It's a misnomer. It
Right.
is something that already exists. Most of us have experienced this undifferentiated state in infancy. And the true man is somebody who can embrace that undifferentiated state that we all experience in infancy, of not knowing self from other, right from wrong, life from death, and at the same time embrace the paradoxical knowledge of being a fully realized person who does see those distinctions. When you can reconcile those two paradoxes into a daily comportion, you have obtained Zhenren, or the true man's state. I'm not claiming to have, but I kind of get the idea.
Thank you, Aman. Are you a true man?
I'm truly working at it.
Okay. That's the great Taoist answer. So
That
thank you.
means no. If you're working at it, that means no.
Okay, so let's go to the text. Okay, so that's I hope you already read the text, and then I kind of reorganize the text, and then so let's start. Before we start, I put the blue text here. Basics. That's the translator from Fung You Lan's comment. So he gives us some highlight of this chapter. So he said this chapter gives description of perfect man, or called true man, and who can be the great teacher of the world. One thing I like to mention here, the man, we call it the great teacher. Sometimes you see the translation called the great master teacher. If you know Chinese, okay, so-called 大宗师, okay, 大 means great, that's fine. 师 means teacher. And what's the meaning of 宗? Usually, somebody being called 宗, okay, instead 宗师 instead of 师, that means he is the founder of a school. So here, talking about the founder of the school, which is Taoism. I think that's the way. That's why I call it 大宗师, or the great teacher or great founding master. I think that's probably another way to call it. And then I will go to Mark. Mark, please. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So I have a question about this, a couple of questions actually, about this word run. Is this the same run, the two character run, one stroke down to the left and then a smaller stroke down to the right? Or is this a different character?
Different character. You talk about the great teacher or the text?
Yeah, the true man.
Okay. So we will get in there. Okay. So here you will see the text keep talking about the true man of the ancient time. Okay, so two ways to explain, understand this word, the true man of the ancient time. Okay, in this chapter of text, I think at least probably 6-7 times, almost every paragraph start with the true man of the ancient time. So two ways to understand. Some people will say, in the ancient time, before Zhuang's old time, they really have some true men exist. Okay, so Zhuangzi talk about this one. But another one we can take as a tradition Chinese writing, usually including Confucius, okay, and any writing during that time, you say the sage of ancient time, the great king of ancient time. That means the role model. So there's a two way to understand the true man. It really exists long time ago, or Zhuangzi is talking about a model. Okay, a model we try to work out. I think that's two way to understand.
So my question, actually, what I'm curious about is the gender, because when you translate it as man, like in this sense, the way it's translated in English, it's male dominant, but it's a little bit ambiguous because it used to be that man was typically used to mean person, but kind of man at the same time. And I know that there was a change in Chinese around the 1920s when there was a movement to create the female ta, where you got the female sign, and then in contrast to that, the side character radical for run kind of, I think, is assumed of a more masculine character. So I'm wondering if that's why I'm asking about what character this run is in the true man. Is this the character that sometimes means person, or is this a different character which has a distinctly masculine gender?
I don't know. We have to look at the text, and I will assume it's a male. Okay, and I have to assume even Chinese during that time has no gender difference. They all call 人, okay, which means people. To the specific one, but I just have to assume, during that time, not I prefer, but during that time, probably they only means male.
Okay, thank you.
Tristan, please.
Thank you. Just a very quick question. Does Taoism draw any layover or linkage to the animistic traditions that existed in China pre-Confucius? And if so, was it something that Taoists were able to live alongside, or were these views iconoclastic? Like, for example, were traditional shaman and sampo, for example, in southern China in juxtaposition to Taoists, and do they still kind of remain there today? And kind of piggybacking really quickly off Mark, one thing I read was that there was a general decline and a reduction in the prevalence of female Taoist priests during the Yuan dynasty. Do you think the foreign emperors and the Xiongnu leaders that came into China at that time actively tried to supplant female Taoist practitioners, or was it something that happened because of other circumstances?
I think during you talk about, that's my understanding. And again, in 2 weeks from now, we will have a better discussion about the female role on this one. And that's true in the Mongolian, and during that time, so-called Quanzhen, okay, they do have a female Taoist priest or priestess, right? So, but ancient time, I'm not sure, based on my understanding, and the originality, Tao is always being praised as the highest thing. Let's put it this way, okay? Even on the Confucius time, okay? But Confucius may not focus so much on the Tao, and the Zhuangzi, who is later time, is more focused on the Tao. And the latest part today, we were going to talk about religious Taoism, which is still popular in today. That you cannot say that's the pure Taoism. That also continue from the traditional, very, very ancient time shamanism. Okay, and I believe all culture have a shamanism in the ancient time. So this kind of thing still merge with the Taoism. And I would let Amang answer if Amang know better, I think.
Yeah, actually, I think what you were saying was absolutely correct. I appreciate Tristan's question, and it does converge with the traditional animism and shamanism of the ancient cultures of the East, which is why you get different flavors of Taoism in different regions throughout the Eastern world, especially within China and Taiwan, but all over East Asia. One of the ways I heard it described was Taoism provides sort of a superstructure, a skeleton, if you will, for other belief systems to lay some of their foundations upon. And so it melds very well because of its sort of open interpretive nature. That doesn't mean that anything can become Taoism, but it does mean Taoism is really able to sort of bring itself into the belief systems of almost anything else. My teacher often joked that, it took 300 years of Buddhists being in China before the Taoists realized this wasn't just foreign Taoism, it was something else entirely. And so it's not wholly accepting of every other tenet and every other precept, but it is very easy for it to be amalgamated into other belief systems.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mark. Okay, yeah, I think you explained well on how does Taoism. I think it's true. Yeah, it provides the superstructure for the later religions. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the first line of text. Okay, so Zhuang Zi start with knowledge. Okay, in Chinese called Zhi. Okay, I'm going to read it and I just put it in the item by item. That will be easy to understand. He start to put this one. He who knows the work of nature and the work of man is usually considered as perfect. Okay, so in Zhuang Zi view, there's the two kinds of knowledge: work of nature and the work of man. And work of nature, according to Fung You Lan, the translator, okay, work of nature, which means the natural knowledge, like blood circulation, the Mars, the moon, okay, the star, that's the knowledge of nature. And the knowledge, the work of man, something like the poetry, history book, okay, philosophy book, all this produced by man, okay. So he who knows both, okay, knowledge considers perfect. And he who knows the work of nature will live in accordance with nature. He who knows the work of man will nourish what is unknown to his knowledge with what is known. Okay, what is unknown to his knowledge usually means the knowledge of nature, and what is known means the human man-made knowledge. So he continued. He thus can complete his nature term of years and does not come to an untimely end in the middle of his term of life. This knowledge is its best. So here I need to have some explanation here. I think Zhuang Zi consider knowledge, the purpose of knowledge is to preserve your life, okay? So you will live a full life, okay? I think that's what he meant, okay, knowledge. Okay? So in this sense, knowledge doesn't mean the more the better. Okay? You need to know some knowledge, but definitely not pursue the unlimited knowledge. Yet there is still some trouble. Here one had to be dependent on something, which is knowledge, and the knowledge is far from certainty. Here he talking about knowledge. Whatever we learn, we are not sure the knowledge is certain. Okay, so that's the big problem to Zhuang Zi. How does one know what one calls nature is not man, and what one calls man is not nature, right? So the knowledge, we have two kinds of knowledge. One is from man, one is from nature. But how do you know? this knowledge, when somebody writes something about nature, how do you know? Okay, it's all true, and then there's no confusion on this part. So here he wants to define the true man. Okay, so the Chinese call 且有真人而后有真知. Okay, so I kind of not agree on Fung You Lan's translation. I will read, I call it only the true man knows the true knowledge. So the first slide, the first paragraph, Zhuang Zi is talking about knowledge, okay, and we are not sure what's true, okay, because it's confusing. So his first definition of true man is the person, only the true man who knows true knowledge. So then he is talking about what's the true man, okay. The true man of the old, again, here talk about true man of the old, okay, we don't know. He is talking about a role model, you know, that if it's really a true man, would be like this. Or he talking about there's ancient time, they have one man or many men, they so-called true men. I don't know, okay, but the text just said, 古之真人, ancient of old time, okay, did not oppose even the minority. He didn't against other people's opinion. He did not seek for heroic accomplishment. He laid no plan. Okay, that's the text he writes. Therefore, he had neither regret in failure nor self-complacency in success. Okay, he never regret, never complacency. Okay, in his success, even he failed success, you know, doesn't matter. Thus, he could scale height without fear, enter water without being wet, fire without feeling hot. Such is he whose knowledge has ascent to Tao. So it's hard to understand unless you take the mysticism point of view, right? He's talking about, I think the first sentence is easy to understand. He never regret in failure, never self-complacency in success. But he still to talk about when he scale height, he's not fear. Well, that's, we can understand. But he enter water, will not get wet. He go to the fire, will not get feel hot. And then his purpose, his knowledge, his only knowledge is ascent to Tao. Okay, so that's the text. And so based on this, right, the true knowledge, which only known by true men, is the purpose is going to Tao. John, please.
Oh, so when in the first one, true man of old did not oppose even the minority.
Mm-hmm.
What do they mean by oppose? Oppose in what?
Okay, so let's go to the original Chinese text. Okay, the minority doesn't mean the people, race, or minority. You know, different group of people. It means the people's opinion. Okay, Gua, I will assume it means. So that means he doesn't against somebody's opinion. So I think that's what he meant in this text. Please don't read as the minority as the different race of people. I think he means the opinion, people's opinion. DLJ, please.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, please. Oh, sorry, I muted you. Go ahead. You are muted.
Sorry, yeah, I'm muted now, I think.
Yeah.
So I think I was wondering if John's question, because my question was the of old bit, not the minority bit. So are they saying that it's different now?
Okay, so I explained this one at earlier time. Two ways to think about. One, you can take literally. Okay, in the old time, okay, they really have this kind of person. Okay, in ancient time. Okay, another way is Chinese tradition, literature tradition. When even Confucius will talk about in the old time, that means he's going to tell you about role model. because the older the better. So in the old time we do this. That means that's the great way. So
Cool. So is the implication that it's different today, or when today was then?
I don't know. Actually, I really don't know. Because just like you asked me, the God Father, the Heavenly Father is the same as today's Heavenly Father. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
So really depend on how you read it. Okay. So just like I said, people may read as a philosophy, then feel like a little bit strange. And then I think if one feel like totally makes sense, you probably have to read religiously or consider as mystical text. That's all. And please, if you are the first time join this series, don't take this one as all Zhuangzi's text like this. Today is very different than rest of text. Okay. Next time when we talk about the second part of this chapter, basics is dialogue. Okay, they have 7 short stories. It's nothing like this. So this part of text is very different. And some people will say, I know some professor in college will say, oh, this part you just read by yourself. I'm not going to explain. They just jump through. And some people, especially on the religious reading, will consider this part is important because that's the core if you want to take as religion. So just again, this one is very special text in Zhuangzi's writing. So let me continue. Okay, continue to define the true man. Okay, the true man of the old. Again, the old sleep without dreaming, wait without anxiety. Okay, so he ate without discrimination, and here the translation is a little bit odd. Basically, he meant he doesn't pursue the gourmet food, any food that he will eat. Okay, and breathe in deep, breathe. Okay, he inhale. The breath of the true man comes from his here, while men generally breathe from their throat. Okay, so that's also another strange part. When you breathe, you from your here to inhale air. Okay, so that's what the text said. Okay, so again, some people may take this seriously. Think, if you practice your body and certain way will enhance your energy. So depending on how you're going to read, or you want to take as like when you play Tai Chi, you have the Qi inside your body. It's not really you have the air from your here, but you will feel your Qi will circulate from your here to your body. So really depend how you want to read it. And then I'm not going to do too much interpretation. And I try my best to present the original text, and really up to you how are you going to understand this one. So Susan, please. Susan, are you there?
Susan, you need to unmute.
Sorry, I'm muted. I forgot. For me, in order to understand these passages, it's very important to be able to make a distinction between what is meant by the way of man in a conventional sense, and what is meant by the way of nature. In terms of the way of man, I'm not talking about true man, just people. Our thinking, the words themselves divide up our reality tremendously. Every word becomes a thing, as they have said in other like Buddhist philosophies. And so everything is seen as so divided, but the way of nature is not that kind of divisible reality. And therefore these dualisms in terms of, sleep without dreaming, it's a transcendent state in which reality, or not, I can't even say reality, but in which true nature is not is not misunderstood in terms of words and things and divisions. It's the way of nature. It is a oneness. It is an interconnection that our dualistic minds cannot get at.
Thank you, Susan, for sharing your understanding of this text. Okay, another definition. The true man of the old, neither to love life nor to hate death. Okay, living, he felt no elation. Dying, he offered no resistance. Unconsciously he went, unconsciously he came. That was all. Okay. Unconsciously, I think here, another way to understand is without purpose. He's living, he doesn't think they have any purpose. He did not try consciously to forget what his beginning had been, or to seek what his end will be. Okay, so he consciously forget. He does not try consciously to forget. Okay, remember, you don't just work hard to forget, you just naturally forget. He received with delight anything that came to him, and left without consciousness anything that he had forgotten. He did not prefer the conscious mind to doubt or to supplement nature with man. Such was what we call the true man. Okay, so here he talked about he doesn't consciously or purposefully to prefer his mind than doubt. He doesn't purposefully to improve the nature with the human effort. And that's what he tried to say. That's the true man. Okay. Madeline, you have some comment, please?
Yes, if you could go back to that previous slide, please.
This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that one right there. Okay, so to supplement nature with man,
Yeah.
I don't know if at the time what he would have been referring to, maybe the big irrigation and dam projects. But it certainly right now makes me think of things like those inane geo-engineering projects, like let's paint the planet white, or let's put sulfur particles in the atmosphere, or iron in the oceans.
I would say, I don't know, but during that time probably don't have a lot of project, but you probably know, during that time they start to build the Great Wall, right? So that's one of the projects. And even before that time, Chinese people already try to prevent the flooding, right? The Yellow River is flooding. Okay, so it's happened long time ago. People try to do this one. And Chinese is very early on agriculture. So probably they dig the ditches. That's all considered human work. But here, at least my understanding, I will say he's talking about Confucians, okay? Because they try to restore the system back to the ancient time, okay? So put a lot of human effort, put the rituals, put a lot of things, try to supplement the nature. That's my understanding. And then the Chinese word here, he called it, don't use, if I translate word by word, is don't use human to help heaven, okay? So
Okay.
So you got this one. Okay.
Okay.
So, and remember here, the heaven always translated to Tian, right? The words in Confucius text, when the Chinese text called Tian, I will translate to heaven because it kind of like a powerful image on there in Confucius word. But in Taoism, especially in Zhuang Zi, Tian means nature. Okay, so the nature force. So even the same Chinese word, I think in Taoism or in Zhuangzi and in Confucius, okay, has different understanding of the heaven. Okay, Madeline, please.
Yeah, sorry to get us stuck on the one word here.
Okay.
Okay, so if nature means heaven, what I'm thinking about is Tian in the sense of maybe something like the logos. Like let's not interfere with the logos. Let's not assume that it needs our correcting and fiddling and fixing. Let's go along with it.
I will accept your interpretation, right? So you can see Tian as logos. Okay, that's another way you look at it. Okay, so I don't see anything wrong with this one. And again, this text, even you read it in Chinese, at least what I know, in the college I graduated in Taiwan, the different professors have a totally different explanation, on this text. And the only thing I'm sure is this text has been taught every year in different departments, but with different professors, different interpretation. So only thing I can do here is based on my limited understanding and then try my best to show what the original text is. So again, not a true man, okay? Being such, his mind was free from all thought, okay? Basic. You can say no thought, but it's different than free from all thought. His demeanor was still and silent. I think this one is easy to understand. His forehead being with simplicity. That's a different word, okay? So basics, he's talking about his forehead is shining and big. Okay, let's put it this way. And basics considers good. He was cold as autumn and warm as spring. His joy and anger occurred as naturally as four seasons. So he kind of, that's my understanding, kind of no different than the future. He was in harmony with all things without knowledge of any fixed standard. So I think here important thing is talking about 莫知其极. Okay, so basically his knowledge is no fixed standard. Then I will put this sentence, the last sentence, in the next paragraph, because I think this one, this sentence, the first sentence is talking about the sage, okay, the true man, as also a sage. Joe, you have a comment?
Yeah, actually, we were just, I was just actually having a dialogue with Aman about the idea of the sage. And one of the distinctions I asked, how maybe did this relate to the true man and to a Stoic sage? And one of the distinctions is that would be that a criteria for a true man would be like somebody that's isolated, living essentially through nature, and the sage is somebody that's actively trying to understand nature and living in the world. So that's kind of one of the distinctions. It's kind of one is seeks knowledge in a different way, in a sense that knowledge is something that can be gained through interactions and other individuals, whereas perhaps Taoist is just understanding nature itself or being part of nature itself. Is that a appropriate way of looking at it?
I'm not sure, okay, but I think, here sage means political, or Confucian sage. I think here, okay, in this text, okay. So that's why I want to. I think in the translation, the assigned text, Fung You Lan put this sentence, okay, in this paragraph. But I think this sentence should belong to the next paragraph, because if you look at all things, he talk about sage, he talk about benevolence, he talk about wisdom or worthy, qian, or he talk about Zhuang which is the man of virtue. He talk about the learned man, scholar. All these words are Confucian words. Okay, the Confucian's moral teacher. So, and along with sage. So I think here, Zhuang Zi want to do is redefine Confucius teaching. He will say, you say this, but this is not. Okay. So that's his tone he's talking about. So I organized in the 6th line. Okay. I think his text is organized in this way. He who purposely seek to know all things is not sage. Okay. So just like Joe, you talk about the sage is purposefully acquire a lot of knowledge. Just like Confucius will say, ego to learn. Okay. So Zhuang Zi will say, no, that's not sage. Okay, the sage is not purposely seek to know all things, just naturally know things. Okay. Again, he say, he who purposely manifests affection is not a man of benevolence. Ren. Okay. So in Confucius, Ren, okay, benevolence is very important, but Zhuang Zi will say, if you purposely manifest affection, you show your love to your people, that's not Ren, okay? So not benevolence. Again, he talk about you purposely observe the change of time. Is that the man of wisdom? You cannot unify, he who cannot unify beneficial and the harmful is that the man of Zhuang. Okay, Zhuang should be deal with something beneficial and harmful. You should unify both together, not just only think about beneficial. He who acts for fame and thus lose his own nature is that man of learning. Okay, you should call scholar or shi, which is important for Confucius. You know, the person who has a virtue, but you know, in Zhuang Zi's point of view, this kind of people, they only thing they care or they care the most is their fame, their name. He who loses his own nature and thus misses the true way cannot be independent of others. So be independent is very important in Taoism philosophy, right? Such men as, okay, so here is a little bit four mouths of term, right? So 胡不接物光，薄于俗其。A lot of 50% of the people I don't know, but basic, all these people, especially like 薄于俗其、机子 okay, they are important role model in Confucius teaching. Especially 薄于俗其, these two men has been praised very high in Confucius teaching. But Zhuang Zi here is talking about all these people, they all act according to the standard of others, not to their own nature. They all work for the delight of others, but not for that of themselves. So they all work based on other people's standard. They are not work for themselves. So they depend on other people's standard to live, which is not sage. Okay, or not true man for this one. Then he lists another long list about the true man. Okay, so I think he has a 12 different things to be the true man. Okay, so that means how does the true man look like? Okay, he appears lovely, but no danger of fall down. Okay, and the one I show this text because I think I want to change Fung You Lan's translation. He doesn't have sufficient virtue, but doesn't try to improve He acts independently, but is not severe. His emptiness was manifest. There was no display, never show his virtue. Even he is empty, but he never show he's empty. You are smiling and simply to please. He responds spontaneously and seems there's no choice. So here, being always unconscious, he forgot what to say. Okay, so unconscious should be say, consider as not purposeful. Okay, so that's pretty strong. So here is another text talking about how true men look like. So again, here, okay, I changed the Fung You Lan's translation. I think I disagree with him, so I put in my own translation. Okay, so here he more defined. He considered laws only act on outward body. Rituals act as winds. Truth, I think they're called truth, only in time, and the virtue is a way of nature. So he considered laws can only act on his outward body, so he can avoid any punishment. He considered rituals act as winds, so he can use them in the world. He considered knowledge is true only in certain time. It's not, Zhuangzi doesn't insist they have some eternal truths. So he can use it to deal the inevitable truths, inevitable business. He considers virtue a way of nature. So his work of nature are like walking up to hill, but people think he practiced it diligently. Okay, so that's the another definition of true man. Okay, more definition. Okay, Madeline, please.
Yes, that one in purple you just read, that was your translation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was much clearer and it made much more sense in the context of what I've been learning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I like it a lot better. Thank you.
Yeah, because the formula on this one, I think a little bit, at least I don't get it. When I see the Chinese text, it don't match. Okay, thank you, Madeline. Okay, another definition here. This one become more philosophical, but a little bit mystical. In this way, what he liked was reduced to what? What he did not like was also reduced to one. Okay? That which is one is one. That which is not one is also one. Okay? He who knows the one is the follower of nature. This is nature here. The word is heaven or Tian. Basically talking about the disciple of Tian or the follower of Tian. He who knows not one is the follower of man. Okay. Neither nature nor man shall overthrow each other. This is a true man. So really up to you how to understand this text. My feeling is kind of like the Europe, the Middle Ages, the scholastics talk about Trinity. Okay, so here comes some comment before I end the first part of true man. So I put in the red text, that's Guo Xia, who is the interpreter in the third century, so who is about 500-600 years after Zhuang Zi. The true man unified nature and the man, equalized all things. Nature we consider as heaven. Right? To him, there is no mutual opposition in all things. There is no mutual conquest of nature and the heaven. Or you want to say heaven and the man. Right? Therefore, he is empty and is everything. He is unconscious and is everywhere. He thus mystically unified his own self with its other. That's Guo Xiang's comment. So Fung You Lan put the commentary here. Yeah, this is Zhuang Zi called taking two courses at once. This one is in chapter 2, okay, as mentioned, the second chapter, chapter 2. So here, the purple text, that's my comment here. So this text, I'm talking about this part, okay, the one and the not one, both are one, both are not one, okay. He tried to talk about two things. One in the chapter 2, equality of things. He talked about, therefore, the sage harmonize, okay, the system of right and the wrong, and the rest in the evolution of nature. This is called following two courses at one. Okay, Chinese call it hang. Keeping, my understanding is keep both right and the wrong, beneficial and harmful. You don't make it very clear on that, but you harmonize, but not mix together. Okay, both coexist. Let's put it so. Chapter 3, cultivation of life, and this text is controversial, but I think it also explains the spirit or essence of this text. In doing what convention consider as good, it should avoid fact. In doing what convention considers as bad, escape disgrace or penalty. So that's in chapter 3, okay, talking about. So that's I finished the first part of the true man. Okay. Next time, then I will go into next part, which is stop. So I stop here for a few minutes. If you have a question, comment, okay, and how do you think this true man, and then whether or not give you answer or confuse you more, I really don't know. So, Madeline, please.
Yes, well, as you can tell, I had a nap and then some coffee, so so I'm here.
Okay, great. I just have to say, if you feel sleepy and then you feel that's not my fault. That's Zhuang Zi's fault. Okay, so totally difficult. Yeah, I already try my best, and then it's difficult. Okay, so anyway, continue, Madeline, please.
Yes, so what I'm seeing here is something, the following the two courses at once. It takes me back to a discussion we had a very long time ago, early in the Tao Te Ching, about de, and whether it should properly be translated as virtue in terms of having the traditional virtues, or whether it meant more like staying true to yourself and following the path. So to me, this would be what de means. Following two courses at once and keeping both right and wrong, and not really in the Confucian system of virtues or the Christian system of virtues. The other thing was that this is also reminding me of the talk by Shashi when he was talking about if you are totally in the flow, someone is totally in the flow of their dharma, and their dharma is guiding them, then anything is fine, including murder. And then later on in the talk, he was talking about people who were completely caught up in Maya, and they would get involved in all sorts of crazy things like murder. And it was at that very moment when I realized that that there's a reason that morals and metaphysics go together.
Okay.
I hadn't really seen the connection before, and now I'm seeing it.
All right, that's great. Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention is here. I'm great that you talk of this Tao Te Jing, right? Tao, I think we know what is Tao. I think it's Confucian and the Taoist. The interpretation of these two words are totally different. In Confucius also talk about Tao, but in Confucius, we probably can translate Tao as the way. Basically, in Confucius' point of view, Tao is a means, not the end. All right. So you use this great Tao to reach something higher, perfect. Okay. That's a Confucius point of view. But in the Taoist point of view, the Tao itself is the highest. So we are going to do for the next 30 minutes is talking about what is Tao. We already done with what is true man. So right now, the true man is pursue Tao, which is not Confucius Tao. Confucius Tao will talk about that's great Tao, but will bring you to somewhere, okay, sage, okay, peaceful, the great world we're talking about. But in Taoist point of view, Tao is the end, not the means. Second thing about De, we usually translate as virtue. But in Confucius' point of view, De is virtue. That's true because very similar to Western concept or Greek concept of the great virtue, right? That's great excellence. Let's put it this way. But in Zhuangzi or Taoist point of view, De probably more on the power, the action you are doing. Okay, so it's slightly different than Confucius.
So it might be the something like the small t, Tao, not capitalized, the path that we walk, like
Yeah, so Confucius will put a small t, right? But again, Confucius scholar will say discrimination, right? Why you put me in small case, right? So it's right now we are in Taoist school. We say, okay, yeah, that's a small t, and we have the big T, right? So, John, please.
So I noticed that this true man description seems kind of like a laundry list of like good traits. So I think the question is more like what is the what is the true man? You know, like a true man doesn't have thoughts, he just knows, you know, that kind of thing, versus like how to achieve that state. And I don't know if this is going to get to that, but like, you know, it's not very hard just to say a bunch of good things that you should emulate.
Yeah, I totally accept your comment. You know, that's the and that's the very different part. Again, I just want the person know, everybody know. I know a lot, most of people has been here on many sections. You know, this text is very different than we read before. I just want to let people first time join, doesn't matter you like it or dislike it, but this part is very different than other texts. And then if you see this one is not important, you in the teaching or the whole school teaching, you probably just quickly just pass over, say, okay, this one just talk about true man, give you a long laundry list. Okay, then that's it. Then let's move on. Okay. Or if you want to do it as a religious reading, will say that's the important part. Let's start from here. Okay, let's go through that, and then the rest just a commentary of this part, depending on how you want to look at it. So I'm going to move on. I will assume everybody know how to become a true man, and then we move on to the next part, which we're talking about Tao. And same thing. This text is also difficult, but it is okay. In all texts, ancient Chinese texts, this is the only text try to describe and try to tell you what is Tao, because Zhuangzi already tell you what is true man. I assume you understand. Then we are going to talk about Tao. Okay. Okay. Life and the death are the appointment of destiny. So here, translation called destiny, Chinese called命. And I think basics means fate, but fate is too I don't know how to say it, but I think destiny also a good thing with some direction. Fate seems without direction. I think another is a predetermined. Also another way to look at. But anyway, that's the Chinese saying, talk about life and death is predefined. Okay, don't push too hard. Their sequence, like the cessation of day and the night, is the evolution of nature. So life and death, just like day and night, just like a season. There is something which is beyond the interference of man. Such is the reality of things. There are those who regard heaven as their father and still love it. How much more shall they love shall they love that which is greater than heaven? So I put a comment Tao. So basics, even Zhuang Zi try to explain the Tao, he doesn't talk about, spell out the word Tao. So he just said, you love the heaven, okay, as their father, and love the heaven, okay. So you should love Tao more. And then he continued, there are those who regard their ruler as superior to themselves and will sacrifice their life for him. How much more should they do? So for that which is more real than the ruler, he talked about Tao is more real than the ruler. So if you were willing to sacrifice yourself for the ruler, then what you should do for the Tao? Madeline, please.
Yes, okay, still caffeinated here.
Okay.
The second two paragraphs, they really seem like kind of a direct assault on Confucius. I'm in a discussion group on the play The Taming of the Shrew.
Mhm.
And we read the play and now we're doing kind of post-play reading of papers and discussing them.
Okay.
And in the English family of Shakespeare's times, the family was regarded as a model of the state. So the father or the husband who was the head of the family was like the head of the state. So a man who scolded and was violent and abused a woman could be penalized for it. It was done more often to women, but they were penalized under the charge of treason.
Oh, okay.
Because they were going against their little head of state within their model world of the family.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I do see some parallels to Confucianism in that. And I think here,
Okay.
good old what's his name is really kind of contradicting that. He's saying, go beyond that, look beyond that, find what's beyond that, and go with what is beyond that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Very insightful. So, Zhuang Zi has a lot of criticism on Confucius' teaching. So here is the one, right? See the way you treat heaven, the way you treat your ruler. Okay. So he has some hidden criticize on Confucius. This one also important in Chinese literature. Okay, so 相濡以沫. Okay, that's the saying, common saying people talk about. That means mutual help in some difficult circumstances or something. So a few people in a difficult situation, they try to, very close, help each other. That's the saying coming from. But the original doesn't mean this. That's probably, a lot of people may feel like the text is dry, okay, because today's part is only part, has no story, and that's the only story happen. And like the next time, the second part of this chapter, there's 7 stories, 7 conversations. But here is no conversation, no story, but it's only the short story here. He talked about when the spring are dry up, the fishes crowd together on land because not enough water. They moisten each other with the dampness about them, and they keep one another wet by their slime. Okay, the Chinese word is saliva. Okay, 庄子 think fish has a saliva, so they use saliva to wet each other because not enough water. So the common Fung You Lan put a commentary here, and I believe Madeline may already see it, right? It's the moralists who perform the word and benevolence and righteousness, right? The Confucian moral It's only work when you are in a small world, you don't have enough water. But it is better for them to forget each other in the river and the lake. So in the open water, fish don't have to wet each other with their slime because they have very enough water. So in a way, we can forget about all this social norm or forget all this Confucian morality if we think big as the big society. All right. So people praise Yao, okay, that's the Confucius sage king, and condemn Jie, which is Confucius always used as example for the tyrant. But it is better for them to forget both and assimilate their different ways. So in Zhuangzi's point of view, there's no sage king, there's no tyrant. They all, the emperor, okay, they do send harm to the people. They probably help, contribute to sending to the people. Okay, then here is more description about Tao. Okay, and this text I highlight because it's a very famous text about the nature. He talk about the universe. Chinese word called 大块 means the big piece. Okay, okay. He called the universe big piece, the huge piece, or you want to call it the earth. The universe carries us in our body, toys us through our life, give us repose with our old age, and rest us in our death. That which make our life good, make our death also good. So everything is nature, the world is help us. Then he give an example. Okay, a boat may be stored in a creek, a net may be stored in a lake. This may be said to be safe enough. Okay, you have a boat, you have a net, you hide it in some place. But at midnight, a strong man may come and carry them away on his back. So it doesn't matter how you hide your stuff. It always has the possibility being stolen. So the ignorant do not see that no matter how well you store things, smaller one in the larger one, there will always be a chance for them to be lost. But if you store the universe in the universe, there will be no room left for it to be lost. This is the great truth of things. So you have to think about everything in everything. Okay, so you don't have to worry about I lost this pen because it's still in this world. Okay, so there's nothing you need to hide. So more thing about Tao. Okay, to have attained to the human form is a source of joy, but in the infinite evolution, there are thousands of other forms that are equally good. What an incomparable bliss it is to undergo this countless transition. In Taoist point of view, probably would be similar to a lot of religion, right? If you think about everything is changed, right? They have I think it's the same as Hinduism thinking, right? The clay will become a cup, and the cup broke it back to the earth, and the same, we eat, and then we grow, and we die, and our body decay, become. So he is talking about everything goes through many, many change, and we have this human form during this period of time. We feel enjoy on that. How do you know? In other form, we don't enjoy, right? So you enjoy this time, and when you die, you enjoy yourself in a different form. So here's talk about, therefore, the sage makes excursion. I call it wander. Remember the word wander or excursion. Zhuangzi always want to use this word because in his point of view, life has no certain purpose, right? The sage makes excursion into that which is cannot be lost, and together with it, he remains. Those who consider early death, old age, beginning and the end as equally good are to be followed by others. So here he talking about, again, he talking about people, some die early, some live to old age, some good start, good end. We all consider that's good, but how much more is that to which all things belong and up which the great evolution depends? Okay, so he used this long word, basics, you can substitute. How much more is Tao? So you already appreciate this, but Tao is even more. So here he doesn't want to use the word Tao, I use another long word. That's the way this text describe Tao. Madeline, please.
Yes, let's see. Well, I know in Chinese there can be multiple meanings or multiple flavors of meanings for a particular word.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering about the word that here is translated as evolution.
Okay.
What meaning might that have had for the writer and the readers of the time?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for asking this, because you probably see a lot of evolution. That's the word Fung You Lan pick. Okay. So Chinese call Hua. Okay. That means if I do it, I probably will call it a transformation or transfiguration, something like this. Basically, it means A become B. Okay, so that's the word Hua. If I answer your question, Madam.
So it might be like metamorphosis.
That's right. That's right. So evolution, I think it's right. But today when we see evolution, we think about Darwinism. So that could be misleading. So, but in a way, I heard people talk about this word. They consider Zhuang Zi already have the concept of evolution, because he doesn't believe a rabbit always a rabbit, a monkey always monkey. He believes that's changeable. But I think he probably doesn't mean the dinosaur become lizard, lizard become bird, something like this. He probably means through the cycle, but again, that's my understanding. And the Chinese word is Hua, which is a very common word, means change. Joe, you have a comment?
No, I was just thinking about would another word be actually that might be good to use as transcend.
So this sounds too Kantian.
I was just thinking.
I probably will avoid these words because.
Well, I mean.
Oh, no. I probably will reject this word. Because transcend,
Okay.
at least my understanding is going higher, right? Okay, go to another level. It is my understanding of this word. And definitely the Chinese word Hua doesn't mean this.
Okay. All right. Could it mean become one with?
Yeah, I think it's a transform, just A become B, something like very neutral word. It doesn't imply transcend or decay. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. It just means natural change. Jacob, please.
Yeah, the thing is that the human, the person, all of us are already the true man. However, we are under a delusion that we are the I, the me, the self, the mind. So, and because of that, we are not living the truth of the true man. And we are actually living disorder, chaos, misery, sorrow. So you're already there, snap out of it, right? Free your brain from the mind, and the true man that was always there will be revealed in daily life, when you go to work, when you go to school, 24/7, not just temporarily, not just for an hour, but in each and every moment. So you're already there, right? So, but you're trapped in an illusion that there's a me, an I, a self. I was talking to John in the chat. So you believe you're John. So you're not, you're manifesting John. John is a bundle of confusion, of contradictions, of chaos, disorder, limitation, finiteness. So you're not actually living the truth that you're already the true man. But when there's no John, when John has come to an end, when the illusion of John, because John is an illusion, there's nothing there. But when there's an insight into the nature of John, that it's just a mirage, it's a hallucination, that the very scene sets you free. And it happens fast in the speed of light. And then the true man will be manifested.
Okay.
It was always there, but it is not, you're not living it, the truth of it. It's just an idea, it's just a belief, it's just a theory, it's just a point of view, an abstraction. You're not living it in your daily life.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, that's a different view. We all already true men, so probably we don't have to. Okay, that's really everyone's interpretation, and then here's some comment. Okay. So again, Guo Xia, okay, who is an ancient commentator, he said the sages make excursion on the road of evolution, which transformation, and follow the stream of daily renovation. This change, the sages change with them. Change is infinite, and the sages are infinite also. They lost in life, but endure in death. So they endure always. So here, when you talk about death and the next subject, I mean, next section in August 12th, we will deal with is the death, because all religions will deal with death. And then I guarantee the story is much fun than today's. It's 7 different stories. These pages show the excursion of the true man really depends on nothing. Okay. So here, what Fung You Lan is talking about, I just want to refresh on the chapter 1, the happy excursion. Zhuang Zi talking about a person called Lie Zi, okay, who ride on the wind and pursue his way in a refreshing and a good man, returning after 15 days. Among these who attained happiness, such a man is rare. But although he was able to dispense with walking, he still had to depend on something. Lie Zi still need to depend on something. And Zhuang Zi wanted us to think about, Lie Zi haven't reached the true man yet. Okay? And the real true man is those who chariot on the normality of universe, right on the transformation of 6 elements, and thus makes excursion into infinite. What has he depend on? He depend on nothing. That's in the chapter 1. Zhuang Zi already tried to explain the true man. And that's the famous text at the end. Zhuang Zi said, the perfect man has no self. The spiritual man has no achievement. The true sage has no name. Okay. So in the chapter 1, Zhuang Zi defined the perfect man, defined the spiritual man, defined the sage. Okay, but he didn't talk about true man. So he lived until chapter 6. He talked about true man. That's the here. Okay. So again, here continue. Okay. More explanation about Tao. I think here Zhuang Zi is going to direct explain what is Tao. Tao has a reality and evidence, has no action and no form. Okay, Wu Wei, that's the word, no action. It may be transmitted, but cannot be received. It may be attained, but cannot be seen. It exists by and through itself. It exists prior to heaven and earth, and indeed all eternity. It caused the gods. It caused the God to be divine and the world to be produced. So when I read this one, I just think about when you read New Testament, when Paul talking about love is define love, kind of thing. You feel pretty good word, and but a little bit vague. Okay. So Okay, that's my theory. So Guo Xiang has a comment on this one, and Guo Xiang's comment is even more esoteric, okay, more mystical. So I think it's interesting. Yeah, I also put the Chinese here. So Guo Xiang become more mystical than the mystics of Zhuang Zi. Even he tried to comment Zhuang Zi. He said Tao does not cause the God to be divine, but they are divine themselves. Okay. So Tao caused them to be divine by not causing them. Tao does not produce the world, but the world produces itself. So Tao produces it by not producing it. So really up to you to understand this text, but that's the Guo Xiang's comment on this. Okay. Madeline, please.
Yes, parts of this passage are reminding me of Kant.
Okay.
The reality and evidence would be the world of appearances.
Okay.
Except that, I don't know, it doesn't really, there isn't really an exact correspondence between this and Western philosophy and Western religion. If it has no action, it has no wu wei and no form. So it lies behind everything. Or did not cause the gods to be divine, but they are divine themselves. So that's getting into causality. Causes them to be divine by not causing them, by not causing their existence. But the world produces itself. Yeah, so a lot of it makes sense just in and of itself. But when I try to compare it to Western philosophy, it doesn't really work.
Well, we probably have a different background. So when I read this one, I don't think about Kant, but I do think about the scholastic philosophy, right? Like St. Anselm's, right? Keep talking about being and then talk about God. So if you swap the Tao with God, okay, so probably become easier to read, It is for me, So I feel like I'm reading the scholastic philosopher like St. Anselm or the William Occam's, right? Occam, this kind of text. So that's my feeling. We'll see what John you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I agree with Madeline. The Western religions and philosophy seem actually to be a bit opposed to this. In my opinion.
You mean oppose this philosophy?
Yeah, this philosophy seems to be a type of aimlessness, choicelessness, that kind of thing. The Western philosophy seem to be kind of acting deliberately.
Okay, yeah.
If you read Aristotle, his points are kind of like act the right way towards the right person in the right manner. Though that's the kind of emotion you should have. Whereas this is kind of like, let the Tao decide, it's hard to really explain, but it seems to be kind of opposed. No, I won't say opposed. I'll say definitely not aligned.
Oh, yeah. And then I think in the writer, that Zhuang Zi's mind, probably thinking about Confucian, right? Tristan, please.
Hi, very quick question. China has been a country that's been defined by iconoclasm for the past 5,000 years. And one of the things that I'm curious about is how Eamon earlier mentioned how Taoism acts as a scaffold for other religions, other modes of thought, other means by which people can attain enlightenment and experience. How has Taoism adapted to the different waves of intolerant philosophical views. How has it survived the Catholicization of the South? How has it survived communism? What is the mode within Taoism that continues to exist within these structures of oppression?
Well, I think that's a big question. You know, that's discussed to the end if we have time. You know, because that's two concepts we need to separate. One is Taoism philosophy, right? One is religious Taoism. Okay. So this text really doesn't represent the philosophical part of Taoism. This today's text only, in my opinion, only represent the religious part or more religious flavor of Taoism. So that's why I put religious Taoism and to the end of this text. You know, if we have time, I would like to, you know, see, you know, show you how does it change from the ancient time, this text, and come to today's Taoism, religion, not philosophy. Joe and Wayne, please.
Yeah, coming back to the idea of when we're comparing this to Western philosophy or religion, I mean, the eternal Tao essentially can't be named. So the fact that you're using words, I think, makes it very difficult to compare in philosophy in the West and Taoism itself. So, I mean, it just is. So I think that whenever we're kind of trying compare and contrast, that's something I've thought about quite a bit, even when I thought about it in terms of stuff, you know, Hellenistic philosophies, and tried to compare the two. There's some things that seem similar, but ultimately it comes back to the idea of just being. The eternal Tao. So anyway, that's just.
Thank you. Yeah. So I don't know how everyone think about it, but at least for me, I read this text, I don't compare this one with Western philosophy. I kind of feel I'm reading the scholastic philosophy. Scholastic, they all talk about God. And the next slide I will show, I really think it's very similar to St. Anselm, you know, talking about God. Okay.
But isn't St. Anselm like kind of a mental construct?
Mental
and
construct.
That would actually be different than the Tao.
Well, I'm not saying the contents are the same. I'm talking about the style.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm talking about the style. Right. Okay. The way they talk about things. So the tone, the style of the way of argument. Okay. When?
Yeah, that's an interesting point of comparing the Tao to the scholastics, in particular St. Anselm. I was thinking he's most famous for the ontological proof for the existence of God, the idea of a being greater than which nothing can be conceived, which is somewhat similar to the idea of the Tao that can be spoken of is not the Tao, something beyond anything you do. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I can see your point. I can hear the same melody in both somewhat.
Okay. But at least, you know, that's Zhuang Zi spent a lot of text try to describe what is Tao. Okay. Even Lao Tzu said it cannot be spoken. If you mention it's not real Tao. Madam, please.
Yeah, in response to what Tristan said, it made me think that the Tao Te Ching, it's one of the most translated works in the world. It's been translated into almost every language there is, including these tiny, obscure ones. It's right up there with the collected works of Shakespeare and the Bible.
Okay.
And so the reason I thought of that is because this quip that I read somewhere, when things are going well, a person is a Confucian. When things are going badly, a person is a Taoist.
Okay. Thank you. Mark, please.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So I have a slightly different interpretation of this first line from the Tao Te Ching, which I think has been obliquely referenced a couple times. And it sounds like from your comments so far, it sounds like you, Jason, don't share my interpretation. So this could be my misunderstanding, or it could be a translation issue. So usually the translation that I remember is the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be made is not the eternal name. Tao ka Tao, Fei Chong Tao, Ming ka Ming, Fei Chong Ming. So the way that I understand that is the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. That's not saying that you can't say anything about it, in my understanding. That's saying that whatever I say to you about it now is not necessarily applicable under all conditions and all circumstances, because the understanding of it changes with conditions and circumstances. The same with the name. I can name it now, like I'm calling it Tao, for example. That's a name and it ascribes to something, but that name is not necessarily applicable in every situation and every circumstance. For example, if you don't speak Chinese, you could maybe talk about something like the Tao in another language with another concept. Like I hear this kind of ineffability of the Tao promoted a lot, and that's not quite the way that I read it. So I'm wondering what you think about that, Jason.
Well, Mark, thank you. I totally agree with you. You know, actually, I don't see we have a different opinion on the Tao, and then because the word 非常道可道非常道, the Tao can be Tao. Okay, the word Tao is not really spoken, so it's open question. You know, so I don't see we have a different comment on this, but at least I think Zhuang Zi put a lot of effort. We appreciate try to explain what is Tao. I just think about Madeline's talking about when everything goes well, you go to Confucius, not going well, go to Taoism. And right now I'm going to Taoism, but I see everything go well. So my question would be, when everything go well, I still go to Taoism. Does that means much, much better? Improve my well-being. At least I'm thinking this way. So personally, I'm more Taoism than Confucian. Okay, so just that's me. Okay. Doesn't matter it's going well, not going well. So next one. I think this one is very scholastic, okay? Very much like St. Anselm talking about God is being itself. Okay, that's my theory. Just share with everyone. It is above the zenith. Okay, the word zenith, Taiji. Okay, the original word is Taiji, and during that time, the understanding of Taiji means before everything starts. Okay, but here Fung You Lan translates as zenith. So it's above the zenith, but it is not high. It is beneath the middle. Okay, and here called Liu Ji, 6 extreme. Okay, it's talking about the 6 worst evil. Okay, it is not low. It is prior to heaven and earth, but it is not ancient. It is older than the most ancient, but it's not old. Okay, so that's the text. I think it sounds like talking about if you change this word Tao as God, okay, and put in the Western Middle Ages, and then they probably accept it. So Guo Xiang's comment is same thing. This shows the Tao is everywhere. Therefore, it is the highest place, but it's not high. It is the lowest place, but it is not low. It is in ancient time, but it is not ancient. It is in old age, but it is not old. It is everywhere, but everywhere is nothing. Okay. Okay, so I think that's the text he talking about. So I'm going to show the last slide, this one, okay? Okay, I don't know anyone how you read this one, and then I think you can spend like 3 hours talk about this page, okay, or we just skip it, right? So here I put the underline, okay. 西为伏羲 the great basically mean the Usa major, Pen Quan Pin, okay. That's all deities name, okay, the Taoism deities name, okay. So all these one are immortal. So here I'm not going to spend 3 hours on that, but basics, that's the text. We talk about all the goddess, okay. So I think it's about Tristan concerned about the female issue, okay. The Xi Wang Mu, right? Okay, Xi Wang Mu means queen mother of the Jade emperor. Okay, that's his mother. Okay, so we have a female here. All right, and then she giving the seed to the mountain. So they have the mountain god, the river god. Another person I'd like to mention is Fung Zhu. Okay, here. Yellow Emperor, okay, and Fung Zhu attended, right? So here you talk about anyone attend the Tao will become this. So that's all the goddess, okay? They attend Tao, so they can do this. So here also talk about Fung Zhu, okay? I'd like to mention in my family book, that's my last name. So he is the founder of my family, long time ago, many 1,000 years ago. So according to the book, so he lived for 840 years. So he said, Feng Zhu also get the Tao, so he can live such a long time. So that's all about the text. So I will finish this part of text today, and then it's very different than others, and then but that's what it is, you know. And before I doing this one, I kind of think about probably I should skip this part, but then or just quickly, run through this part. But then I think probably let's give the a fair treatment on each page. Okay, so that's why I decided to put this one. And then Madam, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. This whole thing is wonderful.
Okay, thank you. You see it this way.
I have a question about in Zhuang Tzu, attained it, and with it he dwelt in the dark palace.
Okay, okay.
Yep, that one. I'm just wondering about the word for dark. Is it that special word for dark that means like a sort of purpley reddish black?
Yes, the word.
And is this also dark palace? Is this the dark warrior constellation with the snake wrapped around the tortoise?
No, the different word. Okay, so the word used is so-called xuan. Okay, so this word usually translated as dark, but another way to translate is mystical. So in this word, dark means mystical. Okay, so in the mystical palace, that will be more meaningful. But the word itself means red become purple, right? When the red color become deep and the deep become purple, and the go more deep, it become black. Okay, so dark. And when you look at the black screen, you feel like you lost in there. So you feel mystical. So I think that's the word. Any other comment?
Thanks.
So here I'm going to run through a few slides, okay, about today's Taoism, okay. So I just copied from World History Encyclopedia about the history about the religious Taoism, right? So what we read is the philosophical Taoism, but in the religious Taoism happened in the later Han, which is about 200 CE, 500 later, okay, become religious Tao, okay, so-called Tao Jiao. The funny thing I find out, the paradoxical idea here, when Taoism philosophy started, they try to reject Confucian teaching. Okay, one thing they want to reject is ritual. That's a lot of Confucian ritual, morality, especially ritual. Taoists consider it's nonsense. Okay, so one lives in a natural way. But 500 years later, when Taoism become religion, okay, religious Taoism so-called, they start to add more and more ritual. So in today's Taoism, you will see full of rituals, many rituals. So the interesting is they start from against Confucian ritual, okay, but turn out they become more ritualistic than Confucian ritual, okay. So that's the interesting part in this one. So Taoism also have a lot of things, and the only thing I can say here is about my understanding. And you know, I grew up in Taiwan, and it's a full of the Taoism temple, and I think it's in my life. So that's the only thing I know. And I go to other Southeastern country, I also see this one. So I will assume that's the word I see in Tao, the religious Tao. But of course, different scholars, different people, and different people in different locations, like Amang, I believe he's not here. We probably have a different view on that, but you know, I just want to share that's only my view on that. So about the founder of this religion, technically we consider as Zhang Daolin, which is about the 1st or 2nd century in China. And then up to today is the 65th master. Okay, and I don't know who he is, and that shows some picture. And I'm not going through all the detail, but the Taoism, like they have Tai Sang Lao Jun, that's the Lao Tzu. Okay, that's the Lao Tzu become the God. Okay, so you will see a lot of things, and the Guan Yin, which is Buddhism deity, right? And then also become Taoism God. So get more and more God created. I think it's very similar to Hindus, right? A little bit reverse. At least in a way, you see Hinduism that millions, billions of gods. But in a way, you can say there's no God or only Brahman. Okay, it's a philosophy. Same as Taoism, the situation. When we look at the text and the Zhuang Zi writing, we probably see, except today's section, okay, we probably see them. But after 1,000 years, 2,000 years, it developed many gods. It borrowed from the Guan Yin, for example, this one. Guan Yin is from India, right? And become the Taoism God. And same as the Chinese hero, okay, Guan Gong, okay, that's happened on the 2nd century. He is a soldier, a general, a brave soldier, because he has a high virtue, especially on the righteousness, loyalty. So he also become God and become one of the Taoism God. And there is ultra popular in Taiwan, okay. And in Taipei, like, you know, that's today, okay, every time I go back to Taiwan, in the center of Taipei city, that's so-called the Xingtian Gong, that's the Guan Yu, okay, and it's there, okay, and I will go there, okay. You ask me, it's religious or something, I don't know, but I will still go there because it's a popular place. You can see every time I go there, there's full of people here, and you can see this picture, and it's real. And when I see it's like this. Another thing I'd like to introduce is about Ma Zhu. Okay, Ma Zhu is a female. Okay, there's some, I think, interesting concern about female. That's a female. Okay, Ma Zhu. Because Taiwan used to be the fishermen, a lot of fish. Usually she is the goddess, protect the fishermen. Okay, so become popular in Taiwan. You can see every day, every year, her birthday. There's a lot of people gather together. And this goddess will patrol the entire Taiwan. So the big event will go through the every street of Taiwan. And when she passed through, then there's the traffic control, you know, a lot of things happen here. So last thing here is Earth God, also part of that. Okay, it's kind of like a real estate. So if you are in the, you know, in real estate, some places are very expensive, some places are cheap. So some places is a small Earth God because that's in the countryside, and some in the metropolitan city, the property are expensive. So the God also become more expensive. So that's many things here, and then even Confucius has become God. And that's in Taiwan, south part of Taiwan. That's the Confucius that become the shrine for Confucius. That's also famous. And then if you become the priest, right? And then that's the become the priest. Okay, so for the ceremonial ritual, you need this kind of people to do it. So I kind of like give through from the original text and then jump to the what's going on today here, right? What people practice. And then, of course, you cannot say because this text then covers this, but that's the origin of the text. And then through 1,000 years, a lot of influence, a lot of foreign influence come in, and then add up. That's what we see today. I have narrowed to say what all the picture I show is in Taiwan, okay, and the other country also have a similar situation on this one. So that become a religion, and then so I think that will end this one here, and then any comment, question, or anything you want to talk about today's section, please.
That was great. It's a bang up ending.
Okay.
I love seeing the way that that foreign influences and ancient gods all just get incorporated into it. There doesn't seem to be a sort of the sort of rivalry of precedence that there is in monotheism.
I think that's what Amman talked about superstructure. Okay, so the original Tao, right, and they created a structure for that. So through the time, based on the people show up, for example, Guan Yu, which is a hero, okay, and he become God. Okay, so we just have a space for him. There's some great guy, and in Taiwan, Ma Zhu, they all have a story. Some regular people become Taoist God or goddess, and they always have space. And sometimes human created, right? So you feel have a need, then they may create God, they will put in. So I think Aman's description is very interesting because it created a structure, scaffold. So they have a lot of space for people to fill in. And even the foreign God can put in. So I think that's why I'm not going to comment it's good, bad, or what's that, but that's what it is. So. Any other comment, suggestion, and no?
I like your comparison at the end to the Brahmin.
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually,
I thought that was it. Yeah, I thought that was helpful.
So next week you will.
The idea of a universal principle. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and then so we will next week we talk about Bhagavad Gita, and then we talk about the Chinese history about the Wu Tian. Then we will come into the next second part of this one, and then they'll be totally different than today's text. The seven, I think it's seven short story. All right. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jason. Good night, everyone.
Good night.